The wind moves differently here. It carries salt and memory, the kind of air that feels older than breath itself. Far below, waves crash against the stone arch that cradles the city, their rhythm eternal, unchanged since the first ships dared these northern waters. Above them rises Solitude, proud, luminous, and utterly alone. The city does not merely rest upon stone, it crowns it. When dawn comes to Hafengar, light falls softly over the sea. It filters through the mist, gilding the white cliffs and the proud towers of the Blue Palace. The gulls cry from the arches, their wings catching fire in the rising sun. And slowly, almost reverently, the city wakes. A shutter creaks open. A bell tolls from the docks below. Smoke curls upward from 1,000 chimneys, thin and pale against the sky. From the harbor, Solitude looks almost unreal, a dream suspended between air and ocean. The stone bridge that binds it to the mainland stretches like a spine of gods, carved not by hands, but by time. Travelers say there is no other city like it in all of Skyrim, perhaps in all of Tamriel. It is both fortress and melody, both crown and wound. For every sound here, the cry of gulls, the lapping of waves, the whisper of wind against marble, carries echoes of both majesty and mourning. Long ago, before the Empire's banners flew above its gates, this place was but a cliff, a high, wild outcrop overlooking the Sea of Ghosts. It was the Nords of Hafengar who first settled here, drawn by the promise of trade and the protection of the sea's natural fortress. They called it Hafengar's crown, for it rose above the waters like a king among waves. Ships could dock beneath the arch, and from that harbor their voices would rise, songs of fishing, of storms, of gods. Over time, the cliff became a settlement, the settlement a city, and the city a kingdom. But Solitude's greatness was never just in its stone, it was in its voice. Even now, the city sings, not with words, but with presence. Walk its streets in the early morning, and you will hear it, the whisper of banners in the wind, the distant rhythm of waves echoing against the arch, the faint laughter of merchants setting up their stalls in the marketplace. It is a music older than any bard song composed by the sea itself. They call it the city above the sea, but that title holds more than geography. It is a name heavy with meaning, for Solitude stands above much more than water. It stands above history, above sorrow, above the bones of kings and queens whose names still linger in the air. Its walls have witnessed laughter and betrayal, coronation and execution, love and loss. And through it all, the sea below has never ceased its endless breathing. Perhaps that is why the people of Solitude walk with such quiet dignity. They live every day upon the edge, between sky and abyss, between glory and ruin. To live here is to learn balance, to walk the narrow path between pride and humility. They say that the wind here tests the soul, that if your heart is hollow, the sea will hear it and call your name. As night falls, the city transforms. The torches along the archway burn low, their light trembling in the mist. The Blue Palace glows faintly through the fog, its spires glistening like frost. From the taverns below, music drifts upward, soft lute strings, the murmur of voices, the gentle cadence of laughter carried by the wind. And through it all, the sea remains. Its waves crash against the rocks far below, deep and sonorous, like a heartbeat beneath the world. Those who stand upon the arch at night often say they feel two things at once, awe and unease. The drop below is vast, the water dark and endless. But the stars above seem close enough to touch, their reflections flickering upon the restless sea. To gaze upon both is to understand the essence of solitude. Beauty born from peril, grace standing upon the edge of nothingness. There is an old legend whispered by sailors who pass beneath the arch. They say that the stone bridge that supports Solitude is not merely rock, but the back of an ancient sea spirit, a guardian that turned itself to stone to bear the city forever. The waves, they say, are its breath, the wind, its voice. And when storms rise from the north, the spirit wakes for a moment, remembering what it was to be alive. Perhaps it is only a tale, one of the many born in taverns and passed between generations. Yet when thunder rolls and the sea hurls itself against the cliffs, it is easy to believe. The whole city seems to shudder, as if the world beneath it still remembers that it was once alive. And when the storm passes, the calm that follows feels like reverence, as if even nature bows to the city above it. From the arch's far end, travelers approach, weary, wind-bitten, their cloaks heavy with salt. They look up, and the sight steals their breath, for solitude does not simply appear, it reveals itself. The stone gates rise from the mist, their carvings etched with centuries of rain and wind. Guards in blue and silver stand watch, their armor glinting faintly in the dawn light. Behind them, streets wind upward through rows of narrow houses and steep stairways that climb toward the palace. The air smells of pine and salt, of cold iron and seaweed, of distant smoke. And above it all, the sound of gulls, shrill, unyielding, eternal. To step through those gates is to step into history. Every cobblestone beneath your feet has been worn smooth by countless boots, merchants, sailors, nobles, kings. Here, every shadow holds a memory, and every echo carries a story. You can almost feel it in the air, the weight of the past pressing gently, insistently, upon the present. At the city's heart stands the blue palace, gleaming faintly even beneath clouded skies. Its domed towers and high banners mark the seat of Skyrim's high kings, or perhaps more truthfully, its high burdens, for the throne of solitude has never been a place of ease. Those who sit upon it carry the weight not just of the crown, but of the sea, the people, and the endless echo of history that never quite fades. From these halls once ruled Potema Septim, the Wolf Queen, fierce, brilliant, and mad. From here also came High King Torig, whose death split Skyrim in two, and now Queen Elisif, young and widowed, presides over both grief and duty, her voice soft but steady. Through each ruler, the palace has remained unchanged, a monument to the constancy of stone amid the frailty of flesh. If Whiterun is the heart of Skyrim, solitude is its face. It is the city the world sees first, the gateway to the north, the jewel upon the sea. Merchants from High Rock dock at its harbors. Bards from Cyrodiil dream of performing in its halls. Envoys from the Empire tread carefully upon its polished floors. And yet, for all its grandeur, there is a quiet loneliness here. Beneath the music, beneath the laughter, beneath the glittering torches, there is the echo of something older, the memory of what was lost and what must always be guarded. Perhaps that is what gives solitude its name, not isolation, but introspection, the solitude of mountains, of oceans, of things too vast to fully comprehend. To live here is to be reminded that all beauty comes with cost, that every crown is also a weight. In the small hours before dawn, when the city sleeps and the sea grows still, solitude feels suspended between worlds. The torches burn low, the waves whisper softly, and the first light touches the high walls of the blue palace. Somewhere within, a candle flickers, perhaps at the bedside of the queen, or in the hand of a priest praying for peace. The wind drifts through the corridors carrying the faint scent of sea salt and pine. It passes through the palace gates, down the winding streets, over the harbor, and into the waiting night. And there, upon the endless horizon, the sea breathes. It does not rage nor rest. It simply endures, as it always has, as it always will. In solitude, beauty is not fragile. It is forged by wind, by stone, by time. And though storms will come and kings will fall, the city remains, steadfast, shimmering, eternal. A song above the sea, the arch and the sea, The first thing every traveler remembers of solitude is the sound, not the songs of the marketplace, nor the voice of the wind through banners, but the deep, endless pulse of the sea below. It beats against the cliff like a heart that has never stopped. And above that heart, rising from stone older than memory, stands the city, poised upon a natural arch of rock that stretches across the mouth of the Karth River. This arch is not merely a foundation, it is a miracle of time, worn smooth by waves and storms, carved by centuries of wind. It cradles the city like a hand that refuses to let go. From below, it looks impossibly thin, fragile even, a bridge between sky and water, defying the weight of stone and history. And yet, it has never fallen. The old Nords believed it was no accident. They said the gods themselves shaped this arch, that Kinnereth, goddess of the winds, bent the cliffs into a perfect curve so that her breath could pass freely beneath the city. Others whispered that Shor struck the rock with his axe after the Dawn War, splitting it from the mainland to mark the boundary between gods and men. And there were those who believed it was the work of time itself, slow and impartial, a sculptor that needs neither chisel nor hand. No one knows which story is true. Perhaps all of them are. For in Skyrim, myth and stone are one. Both endure, both weather, both remember. From the top of the arch, the view is like no other. To the east, the Karth River winds its way inland through mist and pine, its waters dark and cold. To the west, the Sea of Ghosts stretches endlessly, a pale expanse of silver and cloud, where the sun and the horizon seem to fade into one. Sailors who leave from Solitude's docks say that no matter how far they travel, they can still hear the sea's voice echoing beneath the arch. It is as if the city carries its own memory into the waves. The people of Solitude live with that sound, day and night, in storm and calm alike. To outsiders, it can seem haunting, but to those born here, it is comfort. It reminds them that nothing truly stands still, that even the stone beneath their feet breathes in rhythm with the world. Sometimes, standing upon the arch at dawn, one can feel the entire city hum beneath the soles of their boots. It is a low vibration, subtle yet constant, the song of stone under strain, of water meeting earth. To some, it is unsettling. To others, it is proof of endurance, that life and time can coexist, not in opposition, but in balance. There is an old saying among Solitude's stonemasons: the arch teaches us patience, for it holds only by pressure. Every curve resists collapse, not through defiance, but through harmony, each stone leaning against the other, perfectly balanced. It is a quiet lesson, one that mirrors the Stoic heart. Strength, the arch reminds us, is not the absence of burden, it is the art of bearing it well. Legends tell that when the first Nords settled here, they built small shrines along the cliff's edge, simple cairns of stone and driftwood, each one dedicated to a virtue they admired: endurance, courage, silence, and gratitude. Only fragments remain today, worn smooth by wind and rain. But even now, the people speak of them with reverence. A fisherman once told a bard, "We do not thank the sea for mercy, we thank it for honesty." The sea gives and the sea takes. It is not cruel, only constant. And so too, the arch endures not because it is protected, but because it accepts the storm without fear. This is what the ancients called equanimity, a word the philosophers of Cyrodiil borrowed from the Nords long ago. To stand above the sea is to understand it, that peace is not a calm ocean, but a heart unshaken by waves. The Solitude guards often speak of the arch as if it were alive. They give it nicknames: the spine, the old bone, the endless bridge. They say it hums louder during storms, and that if you press your ear to the stone, you can hear the ocean song running through it. Some laugh, calling it superstition. But to those who have stood watch on stormy nights, when lightning dances over the water and thunder echoes through the cliffs, the sound feels real. A deep, steady tone, like the breath of something vast and sleeping. In those moments, the city feels both fragile and eternal. The guards grip their spears, the sea roars below, and still the arch holds. It has done so for thousands of winters, and will likely do so for thousands more. The wind may scream, but the stone remains silent. And in that silence lies a truth even emperors would envy, the strength of things that do not seek to prove their strength. At times, wandering monks from the Temple of the Divines travel here from Cyrodiil. They come to stand upon the arch, to look down into the sea and breathe the air that smells of salt and pine. They call it a pilgrimage, not of distance, but of humility. For where else in Skyrim can one stand so close to both the heavens and the abyss? One monk, a quiet man from Bruma, once wrote, "The stone beneath my feet trembles with the weight of the world, yet it does not fall." I think this is how we must live, knowing that we may break, but choosing not to. His words were later inscribed on a plaque near the northern gate, though few notice it now. The letters are faint, worn by rain, but the meaning remains, a whisper from one soul to another, echoing through time, that the arch, like life itself, endures not because it is unbroken, but because it learns to bend without yielding. There are those who fear the height. Looking down from the walls, the sea appears endless, a dark mirror swallowing the world. But fear, as the old Stoics taught, is not the enemy. It is the teacher. It reminds us that control is an illusion. The sea does not belong to man, nor does the wind obey his will. All we can command is our own heart, our own judgment of the storm. Perhaps that is why solitude was built here, not to escape fear, but to live above it. The Nords who founded this city did not seek safety. They sought meaning. To dwell on the edge of the world and find stillness there, that is the highest kind of courage. Even the waves, in their endless restlessness, seem to honor that truth. At dusk, the light changes. The sun dips low, and the entire arch glows with a faint copper hue, like embers beneath the sea. The air cools. The gulls retreat to their nests. A few torches flicker along the outer walls, their light trembling against the growing mist. And for a brief moment, just before the night takes hold, the entire city seems to float, suspended between sea and sky, a dream carved from light and shadow. From a distance, travelers along the northern roads often stop and stare. To them, solitude looks unreal, almost divine, a city that should not be and yet is. Some say the gods envy it, others say they pity it, for what stands so high must one day fall. But perhaps solitude has found the secret of the arch, that to stand firm, one must not fight the wind, but lean into it. In the quiet of evening, the tide rises. The waves swell, the wind hums low, and the stones beneath the city tremble ever so slightly. The people hear it, but they do not fear it. To them it is the sound of home, the reminder that life, like the sea, never truly stops moving. An old sailor once said that when he dies, he hopes to be buried beneath the arch. He believed that his soul would drift with the tide, carried between earth and sky, neither lost nor bound. There is wisdom in that wish, a peace that comes not from conquest, but from acceptance. In solitude, the sea never rests, and neither does time. The arch endures both, silent, unmoved, content to bear what it must. It does not curse the storm nor praise the sun, it simply holds. Perhaps in that stillness lies the lesson all of us are meant to learn, that peace is not found in safety, but in steadiness, in the quiet strength of things that do not need to speak. The Blue Palace rises like a crown upon solitude's highest hill. Even from the harbor its towers are visible, slender, pale, glinting faintly in the sun. At dawn, they catch the first light. At dusk, they are the last to surrender it. To the people of solitude, it is more than a building. It is a compass, a point of faith in a world that changes with every tide. The approach to the palace winds upward through narrow streets. Cobblestones echo underfoot. Guards in blue and silver stand silent at their posts, their armor polished to mirror the sky. The air here smells of sea salt and wax, of incense and cold marble. Each step upward feels like ascending into memory itself. For the Blue Palace is not only a place of rule, it is a place of ghosts. Long before Elisif sat upon its throne, before Torig's laughter filled its halls, before even Potema's shadow darkened its doors, there was another city beneath this one. An older solitude built by the first kings of Hafengar when the sea still climbed higher and the cliffs were sharp and bare. The palace we know now was raised atop those ancient foundations, each generation adding new wings, new chambers, new burdens, stone upon stone, like layers of time. If you walk its lower corridors, you can still see the seams of that history. Smooth imperial stone gives way to rough Nord masonry. Carvings of septum emperors fade into dragon motifs older than the empire itself. Each wall tells a story of conquest, of pride, of the quiet, stubborn will of those who refuse to vanish. There is beauty in such endurance. And yet, as any Stoic might say, beauty built upon pride is fragile. The palace, for all its splendor, stands as a mirror to the soul of Skyrim itself, proud, noble, and quietly divided. Inside the great hall, light falls in long golden beams through tall arched windows. Tapestries of blue and silver hang along the walls, their threads shimmering faintly in the shifting air. At the far end, upon a raised dais, sits the throne, carved from stone and inlaid with pale wood, its back adorned with the wolf sigil of Hafengar. To those who see it for the first time, it seems majestic, almost divine. But to those who have sat upon it, the throne is heavy, not in weight, but in consequence. Every decision made here ripples outward, carried by the sea winds across all of Skyrim. The philosopher Amvar of Markarth once wrote, "A ruler's burden is not to command the storm, but to remain steady within it." That sentiment might as well have been carved into the very stone of this palace, for within these walls, countless rulers have learned that power does not silence the wind. It only teaches you to listen differently. The throne is empty now, though few would dare to call it vacant. Queen Elisif the Fair sits upon it when duty demands, but more often she walks among her people, her crown light, her heart heavy. Those who serve her say she still places 2 plates at supper, one for herself and one for her lost husband, High King Torig. It is a gesture both tender and unyielding, a refusal to let memory fade. Torig's portrait still hangs above the western hearth, a young man, his eyes bright, his expression calm. He was said to have ruled with grace rather than iron, a rare thing among kings. And yet in one moment his life ended at the voice of another Nord, Ulfric Stormcloak, who believed that the shout of a king must answer the shout of rebellion. The wound left by that act did not simply divide Skyrim, it divided the air itself. Even now, when wind rushes through the open windows of the Blue Palace, it seems to carry echoes of that day, a note of sorrow woven into every gust. Elisif does not speak of vengeance. She prays instead to the Nine, to Kinnereth, to the memory of peace. Some call her weak for it, but those who understand Stoic wisdom see strength in her restraint. It takes far greater courage to endure injustice with dignity than to repay it with anger. She governs not by force, but by presence, quiet, constant, and compassionate. In a world that demands noise, her silence becomes its own kind of authority. A ruler's first duty, an old priest once told her, is to master her own heart. For if she cannot rule herself, how can she rule others? It is said she never forgot those words. Yet the Blue Palace has known rulers of another kind, those who mistook command for control. Among them, none casts a longer shadow than Potema Septim, the Wolf Queen of Solitude. Her legacy still whispers in these halls like wind through an empty harp. Some say her laughter can be heard in the West Wing on stormy nights. Others say her ghost lingers not as punishment, but as reminder that power pursued without wisdom becomes its own prison. For Potema was not born cruel. She was brilliant, eloquent, cunning, and fiercely loyal to her family. But like all who crave dominion, she mistook ambition for purpose. She believed the world could be bent to will, that chaos could be tamed by strength, and in that belief she lost everything: her crown, her city, and her peace. The philosophers of solitude call her the mirror of the Blue Palace, a reflection of all its beauty turned inward into shadow. There is a small garden behind the palace, open to the sea. Few visit it now. The path winds between marble columns and pale blue flowers that bloom even in frost. It is said these flowers grew from the soil that once covered Torig's funeral pyre, living memorials to his passing. The queen tends them herself when no one is watching. Sometimes she hums softly, the same melody the bards played on the day of his coronation, a song of promise and peace. From that garden, one can see the entire arch below, the city, the sea, the endless horizon. It is a view both humbling and profound. Perhaps that is why Elisif comes here often, to remind herself that rule is not about height, but perspective. The sea does not bow to kings, and yet it nourishes them. So too must a ruler serve, not to dominate, but to sustain. This is the Stoic heart of leadership, not command, but composure, not certainty, but clarity. Inside the great halls of the Blue Palace echo with footsteps and history. Courtiers whisper in corners. Guards shift their weight beside columns of polished marble. Every sound is softened by distance, every word measured carefully. It is a place where diplomacy is as delicate as glass, and every gesture carries meaning. Yet beneath all this ceremony, there is fatigue, the quiet exhaustion of a people who have seen too much war, too much division, too many thrones claimed and lost. The air tastes faintly of wax and iron, like old parchment and steel, and still the palace stands, not as monument to triumph, but to endurance. A servant once said, "The palace breathes slower now, but it still breathes." He was right. Like the arch beneath it, it endures not through perfection, but through patience. Some nights, when the queen cannot sleep, she walks the corridors alone. The guards pretend not to notice. She stops before the great windows overlooking the sea, her reflection framed by moonlight and glass. There, with only the wind as witness, she whispers a prayer, not for victory, but for understanding, for the strength to act with grace in a world that rewards fury, for the courage to be steady in the face of storm and in moments like this, she resembles not a ruler, but a philosopher, a woman who knows that the only power that truly matters is mastery over one's own soul. In the Blue Palace, time moves like the tide. Kings rise and fall, banners fade and are replaced. The sea below never ceases. Every stone remembers, but none complain. Perhaps this is what wisdom looks like when given form, a place both beautiful and burdened, standing not to defy time, but to endure it. For all who rule here eventually learn the same truth. The throne is not a reward, but a test, and the calmest hearts bear the heaviest crowns. The Wolf Queen and the shadows of history. Night settles differently over the Blue Palace. It doesn't descend like a curtain. It seeps through the cracks, creeping softly across the marble floor, filling the air with whispers. In these hours, the palace seems to remember things it would rather forget. Old names stir in the silence. One of them always is Potema. They call her many things: the Wolf Queen of Solitude, the Mad Queen, the daughter of the North Wind. But long before she became legend and curse, she was simply a child born into destiny, a daughter of the Septim bloodline, brilliant, proud, and dangerous in her intelligence. Some say she was gifted with the voice of command from birth, not the Thu'um of the ancient Nords, but something more subtle, the ability to bend the wills of others with words alone. In the quiet of the palace archives, her story remains preserved, not in glory, but in warning. The parchment smells of dust and ink. The script trembles with the weight of memory. Her life, they say, is a lesson written in shadow. Potema Septim was born in the Second Era when the empire was still learning to rule itself. She was the daughter of Emperor Pelagius II, sister to Antiochus, and aunt to the fabled Uriel Septim III. From her youth, she saw the cracks in the empire's facade, the weakness of diplomacy, the corruption of men who wore crowns but not conviction. She vowed to restore what she called true strength to the Septim line. Her letters, still sealed in the royal vaults, speak with startling clarity. "The world," she wrote, "does not need peace. It needs purpose, and purpose cannot come from soft hearts." It is a sentiment the Stoics would find familiar, though twisted by pride. For where philosophy teaches mastery over desire, Potema sought mastery over others. She mistook ambition for wisdom, will for virtue. And so began the slow unraveling of her mind, not madness born of chaos, but of certainty. To believe oneself infallible is the most dangerous illusion of all. When her brother Antiochus took the throne, Potema opposed him openly. She claimed the empire was rotting from within, that only her vision could restore its glory. Her rebellion began not with swords but with whispers, subtle, calculated, precise. She gathered allies, wove lies, and played kingdoms, like pieces on a board. But in time, deceit gives birth to war. The War of the Red Diamond scorched Tamriel. Armies marched beneath her banners. The sea burned red with the blood of kin. Solitude became her fortress, her sanctuary, and her cage. From here she ruled her rebellion, her laughter echoing through the halls like a song without end. Even now, on certain nights, when thunder rolls over Hafengar, the people claim they can hear it, faint and distant, carried by the wind, the sound of a woman who defied gods and men alike, and who lost herself in the process. The records say she died here, in solitude, cornered, betrayed, surrounded by the empire's forces. But death did not claim her easily. When her body fell, her spirit lingered, bound to the palace, refusing the peace it had long scorned. In later centuries, her tomb was sealed beneath the city, in the catacombs deep below. Yet even there, her presence endured. The Dragonborn who came centuries later would uncover it. A crypt of stone and sorrow, filled with echoes of her fury. She returned briefly, as a revenant of her former self, brilliant still, terrible still, her ambition undimmed by death. And when she was finally defeated, the people said the city grew quieter, as if exhaling after holding its breath for 1,000 years. The scholars of solitude no longer call her a villain nor a hero. They call her a mirror. For in her, they see the reflection of every ruler's temptation to mistake control for order and will for wisdom. The Stoic philosophers of Cyrodiil once said, "The man who seeks to master the world must first learn to master his anger." Potema never learned. Her strength became her prison, her brilliance, her downfall. And yet, there is something profoundly human in her tragedy. The desire to matter so deeply that one forgets the peace of being small. Perhaps then, she is not a warning at all, but a reminder that greatness without grace is only another kind of madness. In the Blue Palace, the torches still flicker where she once walked. The wind hums softly through the halls, and the sea sighs below. History, it seems, forgives what memory cannot, and in that forgiveness, perhaps even the Wolf Queen sleeps. The Bard's College, songs that outlast kings. If the Blue Palace is Solitude's mind, then the Bard's College is its heart. It stands only a short walk downhill from the palace, a grand yet humble building of wood and stone, always filled with the faint sound of string and voice. Its windows glow late into the night, and from them drift melodies that weave through the city streets like incense. To some, it is merely a school. To others, it is the memory of Skyrim itself. For here the past is not written in books, but sung in breath and rhythm. Inside, the halls are lined with old instruments, lutes polished smooth by generations of hands, drums that still carry the scent of smoke from ancient festivals, flutes carved from mammoth bone and ashwood. The air smells of parchment and pine resin. Students move quietly, as though afraid to disturb the ghosts of melody that linger in every corner. Each bard here learns not just music, but history. They memorize the songs of the Return, the epics of Ysgramor, the ballads of the Companions, and the laments of fallen kings. They learn that a story is not owned by its teller. It is carried, preserved, passed like a flame from one soul to another. Words are wind, an old bard named Viarmo once said, but they move mountains all the same. In that sentiment lies the heart of solitude, that what endures is not stone nor sword, but song. At dusk, when the sea mists creep up the hill, the bards gather in the courtyard. They light candles, tune their instruments, and sing together beneath the open sky. Their voices rise in harmony with the wind, mingling with the cry of gulls and the low hum of the sea. The songs are not always joyful. Many are mournful, filled with longing and remembrance. But even sorrow, when sung, becomes something gentler. There is a kind of Stoic peace in this practice, acceptance through melody. The bards know they cannot change the past nor hold the future. They sing to reconcile both, to bring the chaos of time into order through rhythm. Every note is an act of stillness. One song sung only on the coldest nights tells of Potema's final hour. It is not an anthem of condemnation, but of pity. Its refrain is simple, almost prayer-like. The wolf runs tired, the crown grows cold, the sea forgets, but the wind still holds. In those words lies understanding that even in ruin, there is humanity. Even in error, there is echo. The bards do not judge her, they remember her. And in remembrance, they heal the wound history leaves behind. The Bard's College also teaches silence. Every student must spend one evening alone on the arch, with no instrument, no voice, only the sound of the sea. It is said that only then can one understand what music truly is. Not sound, but space. For it is in the pause between notes that the soul breathes. The Stoics taught much the same, that wisdom is not knowing many things, but knowing when to be quiet. To listen to the world without judgment, to let it speak for itself. That is the art the bards practice each night. When dawn comes, the city wakes to their songs. Fishermen hum their melodies as they cast their nets. Children mimic their tunes while chasing gulls in the square. Even the guards, weary and cold, tap their spears to the rhythm. In this way, the bards weave unity through the city, an invisible thread binding everyone, high-born and common alike. It is said that when a bard dies, their voice joins the wind above solitude. Perhaps that is why the city always seems to sing, even when no one is playing. In a world where kings rise and fall, the bards remind us of a simple truth, that legacy is not measured in crowns or monuments, but in the quiet moments that outlast both. For while the stone of solitude may one day crumble, its songs will remain, carried by wind, remembered in silence. The war and the mourning queen mourning comes gently to solitude. The mist still clings to the walls, but the bells begin to ring, slow, steady, ceremonial. From the courtyard below the Blue Palace, a column of light cuts through the fog. There, where the marble stairs descend into the marketplace, stands Queen Elisif the Fair. Her figure is slight, her expression calm, but in her eyes rests the kind of sorrow that never fully fades. Every dawn, she greets the sun. She does not speak nor pray aloud. She simply stands, breathing the cold air, her gaze fixed upon the horizon where the sea meets the sky. Some say she waits for her husband's spirit to return with the wind. Others say she waits for peace itself. High King Torig was young when he died, too young to carry the weight of history, too idealistic to see the cruelty of the age he lived in. He believed Skyrim could be whole again, even as its heart fractured between empire and rebellion. His death came not on the battlefield, but in the very hall meant for judgment. Struck down by Ulfric's Stormcloak's Thuum, the voice of kings turned against its own kind. They say the sound of that shout still echoes through the marble of the Blue Palace, faint but enduring, a tremor beneath the calm. For it was not only a man who died that day, it was the illusion of unity. The war that followed did not come to Solitude immediately. At first there were only rumors, burned villages in the east, rebel banners on the wind, soldiers marching through the snow. But slowly, inevitably, the shadow spread. The city prepared itself, not with cheers or fire, but with quiet endurance. Solitude, after all, had seen war before. It had learned that fury burns fast, but patience endures. Elisif's court is not like those of other queens. There are no grand feasts, no echoing laughter in the halls. Instead, there is stillness, a kind of reverent silence that feels almost sacred. She listens more than she speaks. When she does speak, her voice is soft, measured, deliberate, as though every word must first pass through the filter of loss. Many mistake this calm for weakness. They forget that the Stoics teach not the absence of feeling, but the mastery of it. Pain is not denied here. It is accepted, carried, transmuted into patience. Elisif understands that rage can move armies, but only stillness can heal nations. "I will not let my grief become another war," she once told her steward. "Torig would not have wanted me to fight the wind." Those words spread quietly through the city, and in them the people found comfort. Still, she grieves. Every week she walks alone to the temple of the divines, her steps echoing through the empty streets. She kneels before the shrine of Kinnereth, whispering prayers for guidance, for strength, for the peace she cannot yet find. And when she rises, she leaves behind a single white flower, one for Torig, one for the countless souls lost to the war. Sometimes the priests see her linger by the door, looking up toward the palace's highest tower. There, the wind always blows hardest. Perhaps she feels it as he once did. The same chill, the same light. The same reminder that love and loss are never truly separate. In the evenings, the Blue Palace glows like a lantern over the sea. From the city below, you can see her silhouette, framed by the great window, standing still, unmoving, gazing westward into the mist. The people no longer speak her name aloud at those times. They simply bow their heads, for they know she carries not just her own sorrow, but theirs as well. Solitude's strength has never come from its armies nor its walls. It comes from the quiet endurance of its queen, the grace of someone who refuses to let grief harden into bitterness. To mourn is to honor, she once said to the court bards, but to live after mourning, that is to serve. Perhaps that is why the wind above Solitude feels softer now, as if even the sea itself has learned to speak more gently. In this city, every wave carries a name. Some are spoken, some forgotten, but all find their way back to shore. Elisif's sorrow does not sink. It drifts, shining faintly in the current, a testament to the strength of quiet hearts, for even in loss, solitude endures. And endurance, the Stoics remind us, is the truest form of courage, the docks and the northern sea. Beneath the cliffs of Solitude, the docks stretch out into the sea of ghosts, long wooden piers lined with ropes, barrels, and the smell of salt. Here, the city breathes differently, The wind tastes of brine and pine smoke. Gulls wheel above the masts. Sailors shout in languages from lands beyond sight. If the palace above is marble and memory, the docks are wood and sweat, the living pulse of the city. At dawn, the harbor stirs before the city wakes. Fishermen haul in their nets, merchants count crates by lantern light, and shipwrights hammer rhythmically against the hulls of vessels bound for High Rock, Hammerfell, and beyond. The rhythm of their labor is like a song, deep, steady, unending. Every plank creaks with the music of centuries. The Sea of Ghosts is both ally and enemy. Its waters are rich with fish and trade, but treacherous with fog and ice. Sailors tell tales of phantom ships drifting through the mist, crewed by the spirits of those lost to the deep. They call them the White Shadows. And when they appear, the wise lower their voices and let them pass. But most days the sea is calm, if cold. The light upon it is strange, silvery, as though the sky itself were reflected in water. Even in winter, when ice creeps along the edges of the docks, the people come to watch. They say it reminds them of life, vast, uncertain, and beautiful. Among the dock workers, there is a quiet philosophy, not written, not taught, but lived. They endure storms without complaint, mend sails without hurry, and measure time not by the calendar, but by the tide. Each knows that control is an illusion. A sailor may steer, but it is the sea that decides. The trick, an old captain once said, is not to fight the waves, but to move with them. It is a sentiment the Stoics would have understood. For what is life if not an ocean, endless, unpredictable, and always moving? To live well is not to master it, but to float without fear. Children play along the piers, tossing pebbles into the water and pretending to command invisible fleets. Their laughter rings against the stone arch above, pure and bright. They are too young to remember war, too alive to understand loss. And yet, even they seem to know, then, in some unspoken way, that the sea is both teacher and judge. It gives them fish, but it also takes their fathers. Still, they laugh. And that, perhaps, is the purest kind of wisdom. At night, when the city sleeps, the docks remain awake. Lanterns sway gently in the wind. The ropes creak softly against wooden posts. Sailors sit by the fire, drinking mead and telling stories of storms survived and stars followed. They speak of ghosts and gods, but always with respect, never fear. Because here, faith is not a doctrine, it is a habit. Every morning they sail into uncertainty, and every evening they return, grateful for the simplicity of breath and warmth. There is a saying carved into the mast of an old ship moored at the far end of the harbor. The sea forgives nothing, but it teaches everything. Those words have no author. They do not need one. For they belong to all who have looked into the waves and seen themselves reflected there, small, mortal, and free. When fog rolls in from the north, the entire dock vanishes into white silence. The sea and sky merge into one. The only sound is the low moan of the wind through the rigging. It is then that solitude truly lives up to its name, a city suspended between breath and stillness, between memory and oblivion. Some say the gods themselves pass through the fog, unseen, their voices carried by the tide. Others believe it is simply nature's way of reminding man that all boundaries are illusions. The Stoics would agree that what we call separation is merely perspective. The sea and the sky were never divided. We only imagined them that way. The docks of solitude are not grand, nor holy, nor proud, but they are honest. Every day they remind the city above what true strength is, not dominance, but persistence. The sea never kneels, and yet it teaches humility. Perhaps that is why the people of solitude endure as they do, for they have learned, like the sea, that peace is found not in stillness, but in motion. The temples and the gods of solitude. High upon the hill, just below the blue, palace stands the Temple of the Divines, a place of light and silence. Its marble pillars rise like frozen prayers, its floor polished smooth by centuries of feet and faith. Even the air feels different here, thinner, cooler, filled with the faint scent of candle wax and pine resin. The temple is open to all. Merchants, guards, nobles, and beggars alike step through its wide doors, each carrying questions too heavy for the marketplace. They come not always to speak, but to listen. For in solitude, faith has learned to whisper. The temple honors all 9 divines: Akatosh, Arche, Debella, Julianos, Kinnereth, Mara, Stendar, Zenithar, and Talos. Each has a shrine, each a quiet corner where mortals can meet the divine in their own way. The flames at their altars flicker softly in the dim light, casting long shadows that seem to move with breath. To the untrained eye, it may seem like superstition, ritual without reason. But the Stoics would recognize something familiar here. For prayer, when done without expectation, becomes reflection, and reflection, when done without pride, becomes peace. In the mornings, the priests light the candles in silence. They move slowly, carefully, as though afraid to wake the gods too abruptly. Their robes whisper across the floor. Outside, the city stirs, the distant murmur of trade, the cry of gulls, the toll of the harbor bell. But within these walls, time feels still. Only the soft crackle of flame reminds you that the world continues to turn. A priest once told a traveler, "Faith is not the absence of doubt, but the willingness to face it." He was old, his hands trembling from years of service, but his eyes were clear, like someone who had long since made peace with not knowing. And that, perhaps, is the truest kind of belief. Not certainty, but serenity. Each of the 9 teaches something different. Akatosh, the dragon god of time, reminds the faithful that patience is not passivity, that endurance itself is divine. Stendar teaches mercy, not as weakness, but as strength restrained. Mara offers compassion without possession, love without demand. And Kinnereth, whose winds shape the cliffs of solitude, reminds the people that harmony is found not by mastering nature, but by moving with it. There is quiet, stoic wisdom in all of this. The gods, in their own way, mirror the discipline of the inner life. To accept, to endure, to act justly without desire for reward. And so, the people of solitude pray not to change fate, but to align themselves with it. Among the altars, one draws the most reverence and the most controversy: the Shrine of Talos. Once worshipped freely across Skyrim, now outlawed by the Empire's white gold concordat. Yet here, in the very capital of imperial presence, his statue still stands, tall, silent, unmoved. The priests do not speak of it openly, but they keep the candles burning. They say it is not rebellion, but remembrance. For to the Nords, Talos is not merely a god, he is the embodiment of mortal will, the proof that men can transcend the limits of flesh and become something greater. The Stoics might see in him the image of the sage, one who has mastered himself so fully that he moves in harmony with the universe. To worship such a figure is not to deny humanity, but to celebrate its highest potential. And so, despite the laws, despite the fear, the faithful still come. They kneel quietly, whispering prayers that sound less like defiance and more like gratitude. For even in silence, faith endures. Outside the temple, the wind carries incense smoke down the hill. It mingles with the scent of bread from the market, the salt of the sea, the faint iron of the blacksmith's forge. In that mixture lies the essence of solitude's faith, divine and mundane, sacred and human, inseparable. Here, religion is not a force of division, but of rhythm. The priests pray, the bards sing, the queen mourns, the sailors sail. Each in their way honors the same truth, that to live rightly is to live with awareness, not to conquer the world, but to move through it with grace. In the temple of the divines, there are no miracles, only stillness and the slow warmth of light upon stone. But perhaps that is miracle enough, that in a world so loud with war and pride, there remains one place where silence itself feels sacred. For the Stoics, the divine was never found in thunder or flame, but in the calm acceptance of what is. And here, beneath the gaze of 9 patient gods, that truth breathes quietly, like a prayer that never ends. The Songs of Solitude. The sun sets slowly over the sea, spilling gold across the white stone of Solitude's walls. From the palace towers to the docks below, the city hums with a kind of weary grace. Every sound, the clang of a hammer, the murmur of waves, the laughter of a child, becomes part of a larger rhythm. It is the song of the city itself. There are no words to it, no melody that can be written down. It is built of ordinary things: footsteps on cobblestone, the flutter of banners in the wind, the sigh of the sea beneath the arch. And yet those who have lived here long enough can hear it. They say the city sings not to be heard, but to remember. Solitude's song is one of endurance. It carries the voices of kings and beggars, of priests and poets, of the living and the long gone. It remembers the Wolf Queen's laughter, the Queen's tears, the bard's lullabies, and the sailor's chants. Each layer builds upon the last, until history itself becomes harmony. This, perhaps, is the city's truest art, to transform sorrow into sound and memory into music. Like the Stoic's heart, it learns not to silence pain, but to tune it. Every wound, every loss, every winter, all are woven into a melody that says, softly but surely, we are still here. The architecture of Solitude reflects this same rhythm. The streets curve gently upward, following the shape of the hill. Houses lean into one another, their rooftops like chords arranged in harmony. Even the great arch below mirrors the shape of a song, rising, falling, steady, eternal. The bards of the college say the city was designed by Kinnereth's breath, that its lines and echoes follow the pattern of wind and wave. It is why voices carry so clearly here, why a whisper in the marketplace can drift all the way to the palace if the air is right. The city itself listens. As night deepens, the lights begin to bloom, hundreds of tiny stars glowing along the streets and windows. The sea reflects them, so that Solitude appears twice, once upon the rock and once upon the water. Between them lies the wind, moving softly like a bow across strings. This is the hour the Stoics might have called ataraxia, the stillness of the soul when all is in balance. The world continues its motion, but the heart remains unmoved, at peace. To live here is to feel that balance, between grandeur and humility, between earth and sky, between what was and what remains. In a small square near the Bard's College stands a statue of an unnamed woman. Her face is calm, her hands outstretched, as if releasing something into the wind. No one remembers who sculpted her or whom she was meant to represent, but the people call her the listener. Children place flowers at her feet. Travelers stop to rest in her shadow. Some say that if you stand before her at dusk and close your eyes, you can hear the city's song more clearly, not with your ears, but with your heart. Perhaps it is only imagination, or perhaps, as the philosophers would say, all beauty is imagination made real. When the moon rises above the arch, the city grows quiet again. The last of the tavern lights flicker out, and only the hum of the sea remains. It is in this quiet that Solitude feels most alive, not in celebration, but in reflection. There is a lesson here, one the bards and monks both understand, that peace is not found in triumph, but in understanding. That the measure of a life, like the measure of a song, lies not in how loudly it is played, but in how long it lingers after the sound has faded. And so Solitude sings, not to the world, but to itself. A song of endurance, of balance, of quiet strength. It is a melody older than kings and softer than grief, carried forever upon the wind. For when all else is forgotten, the wars, the crowns, the names, what remains is the song. And in that song, the city endures. The light on the arch dawn arrives without sound. The first light of morning spills over the sea, soft and golden, touching the highest spires of the blue palace before descending gently across the city. Mist rises from the water, drifting upward to meet it, and for a moment, solitude seems to float between worlds. The arch below glows faintly in the half-light. Its stone, worn smooth by ages of wind and salt, catches the sun like a memory being remembered. The waves crash softly beneath it, the same rhythm, the same patient music that has played since long before men built walls or named their gods. And above it all, the city breathes. The streets are quiet at this hour. Merchants have not yet opened their stalls. The bells have not yet rung. A fisherman walks toward the docks, his footsteps echoing softly against the stone. Somewhere in the upper quarter, a single window glows, perhaps a bard finishing a song before sleep, or a queen watching the sunrise in silence. From this height, the world feels vast, but not distant. The sea, the sky, the city, each a reflection of the same order, the same stillness beneath motion. This, the Stoics would say, is the harmony of nature, the universe as it is, not as we wish it to be. And solitude, standing upon its arch of stone and centuries, has learned to live in that truth. The light moves slowly down the hill, catching the rooftops one by one. It glances off the brass dome of the Bard's College, where the echoes of last night's music still linger in the wood. It kisses the banners that hang over the market, their blues and silvers fluttering gently in the breeze. It touches the gates, the cobblestones, the harbor, and finally the sea, binding the whole city in a single golden breath. In that moment, solitude looks eternal. But eternity, as the philosophers remind us, is not endless time. It is the complete presence of now, the stillness between what has passed and what will come. To see this city in the morning light is to feel that presence, the quiet awareness that nothing is permanent, yet everything endures. Below, the sea begins to wake. The tide rolls inward, slow and deliberate. The fishermen push off from the docks, their oars dipping in unison. The gulls cry overhead, tracing circles in the air. The world resumes its motion, but the calm remains beneath it, like the heart of a man who has made peace with the storm. It is said that the people of solitude live longer than most, not because of wealth or fortune, but because they have learned to breathe with the sea, to rise and fall, to give and take, to let go and begin again. That is the wisdom of endurance, not to resist the tide, but to trust that it will always return. In the blue palace, the queen stands by her window. Her hair is pale in the sunlight, her expression unreadable. She does not wear her crown today. She does not need to. The wind lifts the curtains behind her, carrying the scent of salt and pine. It moves through the room like a blessing. She closes her eyes. Perhaps she remembers Torig's voice, or the first song they danced to, or the silence that came after his death. Perhaps she remembers nothing at all, only the warmth of the light and the peace of being alive to see it. Outside, the city she guards continues to breathe, and that, she thinks, is enough. Down by the harbor, the old captain from the night before stares out to sea. The fog has lifted, the horizon is clear. He can see the faint shadow of an island far to the north, dark against the morning glow. He hums softly to himself, a tune without name, one he learned as a boy and never forgot. It carries on the wind, rising up the cliffs, winding through the streets, until it reaches the very steps of the palace. The melody is simple, but it holds everything: sorrow, hope, memory, and peace. It is the song of solitude itself, ancient, imperfect, unending. Far above, on the edge of the arch, the statue of the listener stands bathed in light. Her stone hands, forever open, catch the sun. A small bird lands upon her shoulder, its feathers trembling in the breeze. For a moment, everything, the sea, the wind, the light, the quiet hum of the city, moves in perfect balance. And then the bird takes flight. Its wings beat once, twice, and it rises into the vastness of the sky, disappearing into the sun. No one sees it. No one needs to. For in its motion, it carries the truth that the city itself has long understood, that to endure is not to cling, but to release. The Stoics taught that the wise live in harmony with nature, neither fighting its course nor fearing its change. In solitude, that wisdom has become architecture. The city stands upon an arch that could collapse, beside a sea that could devour it, beneath a sky that changes each hour. And yet, it does not tremble. It has learned what all enduring things must learn: to bend without breaking, to wait without despair, to live without demand. The arch, the palace, the sea, the people, all are part of the same music, the same rhythm that has carried Skyrim through frost and fire, through crown and rebellion, through memory and myth. Each breath of wind is a note, each breaking wave a chord, each dawn a refrain. When night falls again, as it always will, the city will glow once more, not to defy the dark, but to join it. Its lamps will flicker along the bridge, its torches will shimmer across the water, the sea will return to its endless rhythm. And somewhere in the distance, a bard will sing the same song that has been sung for centuries, a song of endurance, of patience, of quiet strength. Perhaps no one will remember the words. Perhaps none are needed, for the melody itself is enough, a sound that says, "We have been here. We will remain." As the light rises higher, solitude gleams upon its arch like a crown of calm above the restless sea. The world turns, the waves breathe, the stone holds, and in that stillness, one truth endures. That peace is not the absence of storm, but the understanding that beneath the waves, the heart remains steady.